Welcome to the NOSA Unleashed podcast, where we want to expose and remove the stigma surrounding mental health by discussing real life challenges and obstacles that keep us paralyzed and fearful to move forward. Let us inspire you to believe there is more to life than what you are currently experiencing. Now is the time to end the silence and pursue the path to purpose and fulfillment. We will do this together because no one stands alone. Welcome back to the NOSA Unleashed podcast. I'm Laura Burgoyne, joined here with my sister Connie Blackwood. And we're happy to be back again after a little bit of a break. And we want to talk about something really, really important, something that I personally struggled with for quite some time. And I know Connie has too. And so this is going to be a really enlightening conversation. But sometimes it's really hard to say no. Sometimes, you know, we have a lot of people that expect things from us, a lot of things that we say yes to in the moment and then after regret it. And, we really need to discover, how do we make good decisions, and how do we, establish, some guidelines around how we should make these decisions. So Connie, once again, welcome to the conversation.
Thanks for having me. I think we get so caught up in saying yes that we don't realize it's the road to burnout.
Mm-hmm.
Saying yes to everything. And, we want to help people. We want to um, actually help them go forward. But when we overload ourselves, we're actually doing more harm than good. Because when we do hit those walls where all of a sudden, like, our health takes a plummet or we just need to rest, then we're like actually not able to do anything
Mm-hmm.
versus, actually scaling back and being able to do the things that are most important to us. And so sometimes just taking a step back and realizing what is important, like what should I be prioritizing, and saying yes to those things, and realizing it's okay to say no because there are going to be other people who that is their calling, that they can step into those things and that is their purpose.
Right. And the things that we're saying yes to aren't bad things, right? They're good things, right? And sometimes we feel this obligation to be there for everyone and fulfill every thing that we've committed to, and realize, like, one of the things I had to realize during my burnout was, you know, what is it that I want to achieve in that season? And are the things that I'm committing my time and energy to, aligned with my purposes or my goals in that season, or even my values, right? Sometimes we just say yes out of pressure. Sometimes we feel guilted into it. Sometimes we think it'll be a great thing, and then once we're in it, it really is not our fit. And, I remember a scripture where it says, and this is talking about a financial issue, but if you find yourself entrapped by your words, get out as quickly as you can.
Mhm.
Right. And I find that the same thing when it comes to commitments we make. Like, if you make a commitment and all of a sudden you're like, this isn't right for me, find a way to get out as quickly as you can.
For sure. It reminds me of a couple months ago. Well, actually, it's more than a couple months now. Time flies. So it's several months ago, and me and my husband, we really, really, really felt like we didn't want to let people down. And so we overloaded ourselves and said yes to too many people. And one of the places that we were volunteering actually gave us an ultimatum and helped us make that decision very clear because we felt like we were supposed to be at the other organization. And so it actually helped us make that decision because it was like, no, we know where God is calling us. We're called to be this with this other organization. So when we were given the ultimatum, it made it very simple. But before that, we
Mhm.
were trying to please everyone and do everything, and it just wasn't going to work.
Mhm. For sure. And since you made that decision, how have things shifted for you?
There's been a lot more peace, a lot more clarity, and a lot more joy and like just completeness in what we're doing. And it actually feels like we can focus more on exactly where we are rather than trying to pull our attention in two different directions. And because of that, I think we've been able to step into more where we
Mhm.
are than we would have been able to stretching ourselves. And so it's actually been really good for us to be where we're at because that's exactly where God had planned for us to be. And,
Mhm.
I look back and I'm like, we should have just done that from the start because it was so stressful that season of trying to be everything and do everything that like now there's just a lot more calm and peace and it just feels good. Life feels
Yeah.
good. And I
Yeah.
feel more purpose because it's all focused in one direction now. So
Yeah. Yeah, I had something similar happen in the last 2 months or less, and it was actually a decision. I feel like when I first made the decision, it was the right decision for that season, but then I was feeling something shift in me and shift in the direction that I was going, but it meant that I was gonna have to say no and actually shift the and it wasn't only gonna impact me, it was gonna impact someone else. And that was the hardest part, right? It was like, how do I say no? Because I know that this might potentially have an adverse impact on that other person, right? And I really struggled with this decision. I waffled back and forth. I thought about it for a long time. I prayed about it. I was asking God for confirmation, and I just didn't have peace about it. And then finally it was just like, this is just what I have to do. And so I, contacted that person and I told them all the reasons why. And, they were so graceful. And they understood, even though it would impact them, they understood. And, I gave them ample amount of time to make the transition and make the shift. Um, but I'm more at peace now, right? And I'm able to, close that chapter and pursue this next chapter that God has me on, right? And so sometimes those decisions of when we have to say no, when we have to cut some ties or stop doing some things that we've been doing that haven't been serving us is hard, right? We got to have these difficult conversations. We have to be brave and be willing to be honest with people and tell them, why we're making these decisions and why in this season we have to go in a new direction. And when I did that, it was like this huge weight was lifted off my shoulders, right? I could actually start breathing again because I had so much worry and weight about how this would impact that person. And now I can just do what I have to do and move forward and pursue the things that God has directly in front of me. And that's a good thing, right?
it also gives us the opportunity to let other people step into those places, right? Like, um, we went back to visit that organization and we had seen while we were there other people stepping into the places that we were in. And it was so cool to see that, you know, they were doing great, right? They didn't need us there, right?
Right.
And so it was really cool to see that and that, people rose to the occasion. But if you don't give them the opportunity, then they're never going to get the chance to rise to the occasion, right? And
Hmm.
so, in some ways, I think when we don't allow ourselves to say no to the things we know we should be saying no to, we're almost stealing those opportunities from the people that have the opportunity to rise and have it within them to do so and want to do that, but sometimes don't see the opportunity to do it. I mean, there's been times when I've been a part of an organization and I feel like I want to go for it, but somebody's already there and I don't want to step on toes. I don't want to push anyone out of the way. I don't want anyone to feel like I'm trying to steal something from them. So I hold myself back. And how many people are we holding back? Right? Like,
Hmm.
that's what I have to ask myself every time I'm like, okay, is this not in line with what my values and where God's leading me? And if so, who am I holding back by staying
Yeah.
here or by saying yes instead of
Hmm.
saying no?
Yeah. As you were talking, something else came to mind. Lately, this is the question I've had to ask myself. especially when I wanted to pick up something new.
Mm,
Laura, what is your motivation to wanting to do that? Right? Like what
mm,
is really motivating this decision? Is this because I feel God calling me to do it? Is it
mm.
because I want to, get new contacts and have new networking and have more influence? Is it because I really feel um, that I could glean something from the situation? Like, what is the motivation? And when I answer that question honestly, if the motivation is in line with where God's taking me in that season and the purpose that He has for me, and that God's leading me that way, then honestly, I just need to say no, right? Because my motivation is wrong, right? I'm doing or going or seeking these things out for my own maybe my own self-confidence, maybe my own like trying to meet a need in myself, but doing it in an unhealthy way, right? So that's a good question you can ask yourself is like, what is my motivation in saying yes to this, right? Is it to please someone? Or is this in alignment with what God has for me right now? And that might help, right?
And to all your people pleasers out there, that is a really good question to ask because sometimes we get so wrapped up in trying to make everyone happy that we forget that we also need to be happy. And we
Mhm.
also need to have health and wellness, and we need to be able to do the things that we're called to do. And sometimes if we focus so much elsewhere, we don't even have enough for our own families. And that is our
Mhm.
calling, right? Our families are our calling. They're the gift that God has given us, right? We can't leave them in the dust.
Mhm. For sure. So a lot of times when we think about this subject, we hear the statement like value-based decisions, right? And, I think it's important that you evaluate what your values are. Like what's important to you, right? What are your non-negotiables? What are things that you expect in things that you pursue, right? Like, and I think really taking time to think about that and write those things down. And then when evaluating whether you want to be doing certain things that you actually go along with your list of values and see if how it aligns. And that has absolutely helped me. Like, does this align with my values at this time?
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to pinpoint all your values, right? Like sometimes you're like, oh, what even are my values? Like, I don't even know what that means. And if you're one of
Mhm.
those people, it's okay. Just start thinking about, okay, what's important to me? Okay, I love my family. They're very important to me. So then you write down family, right? And it'll start spinning off all these things. But you gotta get started somewhere. So figure out what's most important to you and work your way out. And you'll realize by the end, oh, that was easier than I thought. I think sometimes we overcomplicate it in our heads and then we don't know where to start. So start
Mhm.
at what's closest to your heart and work outwards, and it'll come to you quite easily.
What are your some of your values right now when it comes to decision making?
God, family. He's given me specific purposes in my life. And so if it's not in alignment with those purposes, then that would fall to the wayside. So obviously purpose. Um,
Mhm.
Another important one for me is whether it's life-giving or whether it's like taking away from. So there's certain things that I do that take life away, right? Like, because you have to, right?
Mhm.
Um, In other words, bookkeeping, right? Like I have to do bookkeeping, but does it give me life? No. I have to crunch the numbers and I'm good at it, but it's not something that gives me life. It's something that if I do it too long drains me, right? So there are specific tasks that I know are draining. So if I can work towards a path where I don't have to do that as much, what I would prioritize doing. Um, and there's times in life when you have to do things because that's part of your job, and I get that. But then you can also be seeking out jobs that don't have that piece or less of that piece, right? Like
Mhm.
being self-employed, you're still going to have the bookkeeping piece, but you don't necessarily have to do it for other people. You can just do it for yourself, right? So there's aspects of what you can do with that. That's just an example, right? Like, um, I'm not saying I'm never going to touch numbers again in my life. I will, right? And that's why
Mhm.
God gave me that ability and that gift. So I'm not going to, squash it like a bug. But at the same time, I know that's not my calling. I'm not a bookkeeper full time. I'm not an accountant full time. So I'm
Mhm.
not going to pursue those things. And if somebody comes to me and goes, "Oh, could you do some bookkeeping for me?" I'll be like, "I can give you some advice and help you find someone, but no." So
Right.
that's the difference.
Yeah, when you said that, it reminded me of an example. Like, both of us are writers,
Yeah.
right? And sometimes we've had people say, "Oh, will you ghostwrite my book?" Or will you uh help me write my book? Or will you help me edit my book? Right? And we really have to be very intentional in saying like, is this what I should be doing right now? Right? Because we're in the process of writing our own books and doing our own thing. And, maybe it would be better geared towards someone who actually spends all of their time editing, all of their
Mm-hmm.
time ghostwriting, and so in some ways it's like, these might be people that we know, people that are friends, and it's like you have this, you know, desire to not disappoint someone, but at the same time, we've had to say no, or at least I have. I don't know about you. I've had to say, you know what, I can't do that for you, but maybe I can help you find someone who can, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Even though I have the skill set, even though I could easily do it, I don't have the time and it's not in alignment with where my purpose is leading me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say, Laura, I'm raising you up to be a book editor and a book creator, right? That's not what he's called me to. And so, even though it can maybe be in our gift set or something we're good at, um, we really have to consider those things. Is this really what I should be doing? Right?
Yeah.
Because that's also a very time consuming activity.
Oh yes. Ghostwriting especially because you're sitting down and interviewing the person, getting their all of their notes and all of their thoughts, and then you have to then organize it, and then you have to write it, and then you have to let them read it and make sure that you've captured them. And it's a very complicated process. And so it's not like it's, can you edit this 5-page document? No. It's a lot more intense. So
Yeah.
um, it's a process. And same with if a friend of mine, like he said, "Oh, you've done bookkeeping. Can you do my bookkeeping for me?" And I said, "Well, what do you need? What actually do
Mhm.
you need?" And he said, "Well, I just need to know how to do the taxes for my business. I just started making money this year, so I actually have to do my taxes this year." He's like, "Can you give me any advice of what's an expense and what isn't?" And I was like, "Of course I can do that." And I'm like, "That would be a coffee." And he's like, "Oh, that's how easy?" I'm like, "Yeah." So we're meeting for coffee on Tuesday, right? Like, so that's the huge difference. He thought he needed a bookkeeper to do it for him. And I'm like, "Well, no, if you've already been doing your taxes, it's not that much harder."
Mhm.
And I was like, "Seriously, just bring your paperwork, bring the stuff you have questions about. We'll go over it. It's no problem." So he's
Mhm.
feeling a lot more confident, even just having a conversation. So, you know, it's easy to sometimes want to say yes to those things, but at the same time, that might not even be what they need.
Right.
Sometimes you need to ask questions to actually find out what they need, because sometimes they don't even know what they need at the moment. They
Mhm.
think they do.
So, Connie, thinking about your life right now and everything that you have on your plate, do you feel like there's more things that you need to say no to?
Oh, loaded questions there.
It is. It is a loaded question.
I should shoot it right back at you. Um,
Well, I'm expecting that it's coming.
so I would say probably. Um, I'm still working through where everything fits that's supposed to be there. And then I have to reevaluate some stuff that is ongoing and has been for quite some time. And it's gonna actually require me creating some boundaries, which I believe we're talking about in the next uh episode. So I'm not going to get too much into detail with that,
Mhm.
but because it's been taking up time that it shouldn't be taking up because I haven't put up healthy boundaries in some areas, and that time could be more well spent if I wasn't consumed doing that. And so, yeah, that's an example. I'm meeting with this one person and they keep not showing and not giving me notice. So I show up, they don't come. Like there for 3 hours waiting because my husband has the car, and
Right.
it's in a not in a cohesive environment for me to write. So if I was at home having my worship music playing, I could be writing for 3 hours. That's a huge thing for me. And
Mhm.
it's not often I get 3 set hours with no distractions from my husband where I can just write. And so that's an important time for me. So now I have to place a boundary there because, yes, I believe I'm supposed to help this person, but they actually have to show up for me to help them.
Right.
So,
Mhm.
yes, there are some things I have to either say no to or put some boundaries around for sure.
Mhm.
And how about you, Laura?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you know, I've recently felt a large shift and a transition, and now it's like kind of just reevaluating everything in this new direction and this new shift that's happening. What now belongs, right? Like you said, and what isn't going to be useful as I move forward, right? And just evaluating each thing, and evaluating it against what's important to me in this season, where I'm going, where I feel God calling me, the things that he wants me to do, and then evaluating what's most important, and then be willing to say no. And I've already let some things go, but I really do sense that there is more that I have to shed off my plate and say no to. And I mean, that's a process, right? This doesn't, these aren't just decisions that happen instantly or overnight, right? Sometimes it takes intentional thought and processing and really considering, where you are in your journey and what you need, right? Because one of the things I've been finding that I'm lacking the most right now is time for personal care, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't have my own time to care for myself, then everything else kind of suffers, like the
Hmm.
work that I do every day. And so I need to reevaluate so that I create more margin so that I have more of that personal care time. And I've even had to shift when that happens and what that looks like. And even that shift has been extremely hard right now, making that transition. And so yeah, I'm definitely, this is a topic that is on my heart and mind right now, something that I'm working through processing. And this happens almost cyclically, right? Sometimes it happens once a year, once every 3 years. Um, and it's important to reevaluate, right?
Hmm.
Because you could easily be doing something for 10 years, eventually be getting resentful, frustrated about it, when really you should have, stepped out of that or said no like 5 years ago, right?
Hmm.
And so it's good to have regular check-ins with yourself and reevaluate and say, okay, is this still serving me? And is this still what I want to be doing?
For sure, especially since, let's face it, I believe that there are times our purpose in life shifts because we're in a new season, we're being taken in another direction, and something was for a season, but now we're going into something new. And you have to be willing to let go of the old thing in order to embrace the new thing. And that's what I like my story from earlier was all about, right? I wasn't
Right.
willing to release the old to embrace the new. I was trying to juggle both. Well, you can't juggle both. You're human, not superhuman, right? Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah, you got to be very careful to when you're shifting seasons just to be able to let go. And sometimes that's hard, right? That becomes
mhm.
your comfort place, your comfort zone, and sometimes that's hard to let go of, but it's so freeing when you do because then you can pour all of yourself into the direction that you're actually heading.
Yeah, and I'm almost sensing for myself personally that I need, like, even a week or 2-week break and just say stop, like, just have a pause and be able to not be pursuing some of these things and then reevaluate in that space, right? Because if you're still going and doing and, like, it's hard to find that time to really think and evaluate and put things in priority, right? If you're still going. So it might be useful too to just say, "You know what? I'm turning off my phone for the next week. I'm not gonna be on social media. I just need some time to recalibrate and think about things and reevaluate what's really important to me, my family, and the direction that God wants us to go in this season." And that's okay to do too.
Hmm. For sure. And if you sense that there's a lot of things that you've said yes to that you need to let go of and you have no idea how,
Mhm.
best thing to do is to write it on paper, write it down. And sometimes you can deliver it in an email. Sometimes you know you need to see the person in face to face, right?
Yeah.
Either way, do whatever you feel like you need to do, but don't be afraid of having those conversations like Laura did, right? And
Mhm.
her conversation actually went better than she thought it would. And I saw how much that decision was like pulling at her. I
Mhm.
know how difficult that decision was for her. And yet, when she did it, it was amazing, right? The person was so gracious and so received it so well. And a lot of people will be gracious and understand exactly why you have to let it go. And some people won't, and that's okay. If some people
Mhm.
don't get it, it's okay. Some people
Mhm.
didn't get my decision, and it's okay. They don't have to understand.
Yeah.
They might be seeing more of it now, but even if they don't, that's still okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, just to recap, this is a very important topic to consider, but it's also one that takes time to consider. And so, if you are feeling overwhelmed, you're feeling like you're on the edge of burnout, you feel almost like frustrated and resentful about the things that are pulling at your time and your attention, those are really good signs that maybe some things need to be let go. And it's time for you to reevaluate what's important to you in the season. And, are the things that you're spending your time and attention are aligned with your goals, the purpose of your life at this season, and also aligned with your values? And, take time to think about this and then make whatever adjustments that you have to so that you can free yourself up to be the best that you can be in the areas that you need to focus on in this time. So, unless, Connie, you have any further thoughts to share with our listeners, I think we'll close for that. Okay.
Sounds good.
Well, thanks for joining us this time on the Nosa Unleashed podcast, and we will see you next time as we talk about boundaries. Bye.
Bye.